are you doing? I'm Martin from Gardens for Life, and in this video I'm just going to discuss with you how our gardens evolve from year one of mostly annuals, and then later more and more perennials are introduced to the system, and in that we're making it lower and lower maintenance over the years, and eventually it'll turn into a forest garden just like Martin Crawford's, or even a food forest like in permaculture. All natural ecosystems actually peak in a forest. That's what nature wants to evolve into eventually. So if we let the weeds go, or all the pioneering species, especially the trees, on a piece of land, pretty much anywhere in the temperate regions of the globe, you will end up with a forest, even in the tropical regions also. How are you doing? Come here, Levi. You a good boy. Attaboy. Nina. Alright, good girl. So this is the end of October now, and you can see behind me in the background there's still quite a lot of life in the garden. Still quite lush and green. And these are mostly our annuals that we've planted here. So the way we start our gardens is simply smother the existing vegetation using either cardboard, plastic or poultry. And we have more detailed videos on this on our channel. You just look for Starting a No-Dig Garden and you'll get a 7-part series. It's free of charge. You can just watch it on our channels on any video platform. And then we drop our fertility bomb, which is basically mushroom compost, several inches of mushroom compost, well aged. And then we plant mostly annuals, so like vegetables or even flowers, could be medicinal flowers, or things like tuberous vegetables like the oca, the yacon and the mashua, although the mashua can be planted in a perennial setting as well. But the rest of them do need to be collected before the frost, so that they are not going to freeze during the winter months. For those of you who've been watching for a while know that I'm a big fan of perennial vegetables. So in the first year we usually introduce some perennial plants that are plants basically that grow for more than 3 years. We like to use insectaries. So insectaries are plants that attract beneficial insects to your garden by providing a food source or a source of nectar. And usually we like to use plants like feverfew, although that is an annual, but it serves seeds. It's naturalizing in the garden. We also like to grow all the Mediterranean herbs, all those kitchen herbs as well, like oregano, thyme and sage. But we have an awful lot of other herbs that we're growing as well. Things like marshmallow and valerian are very useful for medicinal purposes, but also to attract beneficial insects. So that those are multifunctional plants, and we like to plant those in between our annual plants so that insects are attracted and then they take care of our crops as well. So the idea is to have your perennials in place and leave them in situ. So leave them where you planted them, and then your annuals will eventually perish or you'll harvest them. And next year the perennials are still there and they're still going to keep adding on to the same root system. So they're going to grow much bigger, and then they're going to take up a lot more space where the annuals previously were. So what you do then simply is plant more annuals in between those perennials, but you'll have less and less space. A bit like alley cropping for example, in agroforestry. Mark Shepard would be a great name to look up for that if you are on a bigger scale, like 5 acres plus. And this also works on a small scale garden, like less than an acre. If you do it the way we do it here, you can see here, we often plant trees in between our annual gardens, and this is our shelter belt actually. So this just protects the garden from any major wind. The prevailing winds are coming from the west side, and that blocks all the wind, or most of the wind coming in, especially during the growing season and later in the growing season as the leaves are still here. And then we cut it back in the early winter. But the annuals will perish eventually, and we're going to harvest them. And then we're going to, in year 2, we're going to plant more perennials. And there'll be less and less space for annuals in the garden, in the very same growing space. But the annuals do one thing for us. they actually provide us with a really important service, and that is they're producing a lot of sugar, and through root exudates they are going to feed the soil life. So they're going to bring that compost that we introduced earlier in the season to life. So they're actually going to feed the worms and the bacteria, and actually the worms eat the bacteria and digest all of that and make it more available to the plants. And let me just give you an example of what's a new worm feeder. If you have any large courgettes that got away on you, cut it in half and just put it down and take a look at that. The worms will eat it slowly but surely over a period of a few weeks, and they're going to create a lot of fertility. Sorry to wake you up. And eventually, after the first year, your compost in your garden will be supercharged with soil life as well. So in the second year, you can expect just as much growth as the first year, even though your fertility would be a little bit lower, because the first year's annuals would have eaten up some of that fertility. Believe it or not, compost does actually get used up, and the plants do eat the compost, literally, and the compost does actually perish. It does go away. So you do have to replenish the fertility in the form of an inch of extra compost once a year in springtime to feed the soil life and the plants. If you're exporting fertility in the form of vegetables, like you're harvesting all your annuals, you best top up your compost once a year if you keep your garden at an annual level. So if you just have a no-dig garden and you're just growing vegetables in the same space year after year, you best add a bit of fertility in spring just to feed the soil life, and also the soil life feeds your plants. Year 3 is when it gets really low maintenance. You do have to do a bit of weeding, especially at the end of year 1. Keep on top of the weeds. I would highly recommend doing so, of course, because they will grow very quickly, much quicker than they would otherwise in a regular old dig garden, because of all the fertility available. But luckily weeds are really easy to pull in a no-dig garden, so it's easy to keep on top of it. Now, when you've got a big garden, it's not easy to keep on top of it, but no-dig is definitely one way to make the garden big enough to actually make it have a meaningful impact on your life, like a large impact, to increase your quality of life, like growing food and medicine for your family, and hopefully it'll save on some of those grocery bills as well. No-dig is simply a tool. It is not new. Nature always used to do no-dig. Nature never digs, with the exception for pigs. Even way back when human settlements used to have horticultural societies, we used to do no-dig as well. So tilling is a new thing, relatively new thing since the invention of machinery and horse-drawn agriculture, but no-dig is a much more natural approach, and I think it is much more a whole systems approach as well, where you're actually cycling nutrients and you're not killing the soil life every time you till the soil. But anyway, there goes that little rant. I don't want to go on about it too much. Year 3 is when you really start adding some perennials, and you're also adding wood chips as a cover. So look at this. We add 4 inches of wood chips, or 10 centimeters. And these are the wood chips. Let me just show you here. This is willow, actually. These are about 3 months old now. You do want to use them because they will break down if you keep them in a big pile like this, because they will turn into fertility for your plants eventually. And when you put down your wood chips, it's kind of like putting down a thermal blanket on your garden. It'll stop the UV in the summer from drying out your soil and killing your soil life. And also in the winter time, it'll stop the frost from damaging your roots. But the best thing about it is that it actually extends your season. When you cover your garden with wood chips, you will find that plants will actually have a longer growing period, probably at least 3 or 4 weeks on either end, because it keeps the roots of the plants warm. It stops the cold from infiltrating down into the soil, but also the soil life is actually much more active underneath of the layer of wood chips. And as long as you don't use just pure wood, you can use the whole tree, like branches, bark and leaves. You can actually get another benefit from it, because all of the beetles will actually live in your wood chips. You're creating habitat, and your beetles actually eat slug eggs. And that's one of the 9 points that I always like to give to people when trying to reduce slug pressure. So if you want to know more about reducing slug pressure in your garden, go to our website, type in the word slug, you'll find the article. You like wood chip piles?
Yeah.
That's because you like climbing on them. Here, Levi, come. Up the pile. Easy for him to climb, isn't it? He's got 4-paw drive. 4-wheel drive dog.
Levi. Quick.
Levi, how are you doing? How are you doing? He's like a big puppy. A big puppy, aren't you? That's a good boy. That's a good boy. There goes the tongue. The camera lens cleaning service. What have you? By the way, just a quick tip. In year 1 and 2, we always add wood chips on the paths in the garden, and we do add compost in the entire area and then walk where we want the paths, so that the compost is under the paths, so that the plants nearby the paths can actually grow their roots underneath the paths as well. So we don't waste any growing space at all, and we just put down a sprinkle of wood chips onto the paths, so we keep our feet clean and dry during the growing season. Especially in the winter time, that's handy too. We definitely need to add an extra layer though this time of year now, towards the end of the growing season, because actually the soil life has been so active this year that it has nearly broken down all of the wood chips. The wood chips are a great habitat for insects on the ground, even whether on the paths in year 1 and 2 or everywhere in your grow space in year 3 and so on. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you want to support us, you can become a member on YouTube, on Patreon or on our website. We'd highly appreciate your support. Members get many benefits, and you can also support us by buying plants, tubers or cuttings on our website as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you the next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Say bye bye, Levi. Don't too near. You're too near. No. Stay. Sit.
Levi, sit.
Jesus. Stay. Say bye-bye, Levi and Nina. Yeah. Good boy. All right. Off you go. Go on, up the pile. Good boy. Here. All right. Come on, this way.